And talking about pictures, here are some of them you sent into our Eyewitness portal today. We begin with this one from the Kajola axis of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, showing these set of images of the terrible state of the road there. Aside from the poor road network, our Eyewitness reporter also laments how his community is cut off from the national grid. He's asking the Ogun State government to come to their aid. And next are these set of images from Aga community in River State, showing what the community looks like whenever it rains. According to our Eyewitness reporter, the community becomes flooded because of the activities of an oil company there. He alleges that following the intervention of the state government, the company prefers to pay homeowners than solve the problem. He's asking the state government to intervene. Finally, is this image from Agberegbak Road in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, showing a falling truck and men trying to push it up. This incident, our Eyewitness says, is due to the abandonment of the road project, which was already awarded. He's asking the state government to prevail on the contractor to prevent a recurrence. We thank you so much for sending in those pictures, and we do encourage you to keep them coming. Politics steps into the courts in Imo State as the State High Court in Owerri has stopped the State Chief Judge from swearing in Kalisto Ekenze as the new Deputy Governor. Mr. Ekenze is meant to replace the former Deputy Governor, Eze Madumiri, who was impeached by lawmakers in the State House of Assembly. The new Deputy Governor, who hails from Mbatoli local government area, the same place with the former Deputy Governor, was the former head of service in the state.
Attention was drawn to an interim order of injunction made against the Chief Judge, restraining him from performing the ceremony. And on account of that, we could not proceed because we are law-abiding and we respect the rule of law in this state. So that is why we did not go ahead with the swearing-in ceremony. But we are taking steps to vacate that interim order because the court did not, at the time the order was made, know all the circumstances, that gave rise to that order. As a matter of fact, the House of Assembly had already concluded the impeachment proceeding before the court made that order yesterday.
More drama in the Benue State House of Assembly, with the clerk of the House alleging that security operatives chased out civil servants working in the Assembly few hours after they resumed duties. The clerk of the State Assembly, Mr. Torrese Agena, claims that the police are plotting to enforce a regime of violence on the Assembly complex. In the meantime, the new Commissioner of Police in the state has refused to comment on the allegation but promised to get back to Channels Television.
After 2 hours of resumption of work, we had orders from the security men that the Commissioner of Police, Benue State Command, has given an order that all staff should vacate the assembly. And this to me is the harassment, one that is too many, because for 2 weeks now, staff of the Benue State House of Assembly are not allowed to do their work. And that is why we are letting you to assist us, tell the Commissioner of Police, Benue State Command, to prevail on the Commander-in-Chief of this country to direct the Inspector General of Police to withdraw his men from the premises of the Benue State House of Assembly so that staff can do their work unhindered.
Staying with the politics in Benue State, the presidency says insinuations suggesting that President Muhammadu Buhari has a hand in the governor's impeachment saga is the height of paranoia. A statement by the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Femi Adesina, says most of the comments linking the president to current events in Benue State are coming from people who have positioned themselves against the cleanup in the country. The statement reads in part, and I quote, President Buhari will never be part of any unconstitutional act, and any attempt to link him with inglorious past when minority number of lawmakers impeached governors will not stick. It will simply be like water off the duck's back. The statement goes further to say that most of the commentaries on the Benue saga are different, saying again, and I quote, "When it suits them, they preach separation of powers and true federalism, and in another breath, they call on the president to interfere brazenly in the affairs of the state." The presidency insists that President Buhari will always stand by all that is noble and fair at all times. In the meantime, the president has been elected as the chairman of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. President Muhammadu Buhari was elected during the 53rd session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS in Lomé, the Togolese capital. The president, in a statement, said, although he did not put himself up for the post, he will work to take ECOWAS to greater heights. President Buhari also praised his predecessor and the president of Togo, for successfully hosting two important meetings of the Joint Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, and ECOWAS, as well as the 53rd ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. And let's move to our Abuja studios, where Linda is standing by with more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Melinda. Welcome to Abuja. And we begin with legal issues. The Deputy Senate President, Eyewitness, is in the custody of Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, where he is said to be undergoing interrogation by the officials of the agency. Mr. Eyewitness arrived at the office of the EFCC earlier today on the invitation of the anti-graft body, and it's not known yet when he will be released. The invitation to Mr. Eyewitness for questioning by the EFCC was made public on Tuesday last week, following a siege by security operatives to his home at the Apo Legislative Quarters in Abuja. The Deputy Senate President has come under the scrutiny of the EFCC following allegations of corruption, including owning of several buildings outside Nigeria and alleged forgery of Senate standing rules, which led to the controversial election of principal officers of the Senate in June 2015. The Sokoto State High Court has discharged and acquitted a former governor of Sokoto State, Atahiru Bafawara, on 144-count charge preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on the grounds that the prosecution failed in proving that a prima facie case has been established. The EFCC had filed a charge against Bafawara in 2009, bordering on corruption, illegal sale of government shares, misappropriation, criminal breach of trust, receiving stolen properties, and unauthorized payments allegedly committed between 2003 and 2007, totaling 15 billion naira. The trial judge, Justice Bello Abbas, who is also the chief judge of the state, said the anti-graft body in prosecuting the case did not present reasonable evidence to support his charge. Meanwhile, the EFCC has described the court ruling as shocking and unacceptable. The Commission is alleging that the judge erred in law and has asked its lawyers to appeal the ruling at the Court of Appeal.
After the overruling of the no-case submission, there was no evidence profiled by no addition was made to what was already on ground. They were able to concede that they had no case in respect of some of the charges. But in respect of other charges, about, I think, 22 other charges, they called witnesses, but the court still held that for paucity of evidence, inconsistency, hearsay, and lack of proper evidence, then some of the witnesses called were themselves people who had things to hide. The prosecution hid some evidence, pieces of evidence from the court, and the court had no hesitation in coming to the conclusion that if those pieces of evidence had been made available, they would have been unfavorable to the prosecution.
Staying with legal matters, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has dismissed the no-case submission filed by a former governor of Abia State, Kalu, in response to the 7.6 billion naira fraud charges against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Kalu and his co-defendants, Slok Nigeria Limited, and the state's former commissioner for finance, Ude Udogu, had contended in a no-case submission made by them that the amended charge filed against them by the EFCC did not disclose any case or offense against them to warrant their putting in a defense. Justice Mohammed Idris, in his ruling, said that Kalu and other defendants had some explanations to make, particularly on certain documents tendered by the EFCC as exhibits in evidence against him. The judge further called on the defendants to open their defense, reminding the parties they had a September ending deadline to finish the case. Kalu's lawyer, Mr. Gordy Uche, SAN, however, pleaded with the judge for a 6-week adjournment to enable Kalu to go for a surgical operation. But the prosecutor, Mr. Rotimi Jacobs, SAN, pleaded that the case be heard in the first week of September, bearing in mind that the judge had to conclude the case by the end of September. In a short ruling, Justice Idris said he was constrained to grant Uche's request and adjourn the case till September 10th for the defendants to open their defense. At the first arraignment before the same judge on October 31st, 2016, they pleaded not guilty to the charges, following which the EFCC opened its case, calling 19 witnesses and tendering a load of exhibits. Away from legal issues, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has launched Nigeria's first Patients' Bill of Rights developed by the Consumer Protection Council to protect vulnerable Nigerians. Professor Osinbajo says the Rights Bill, which is a crucial guideline to redefine attitude in service delivery, will restore respect for human lives and dignity in the healthcare value chain. He was speaking at the launch held at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. Our correspondent Gloria Umezuki reports.
The poor attitude of healthcare workers has over the years called into question. This worrisome trend constantly puts at risk the lives of vulnerable Nigerians seeking Medicare, even in the face of life-threatening emergencies. The Patients' Rights Bill is launched by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to guard against poor service delivery and a gross abuse of the rights of patients in hospitals. Professor Yemi Osinbajo says the bill is a weapon for patients to demand better healthcare service in any hospital.
Our aim must be to develop a standard worthy of emulation by ensuring strict compliance with and the enforcement of the Patients' Bill of Rights. We must hold ourselves, professionals and patients, accountable to the rights that this document enunciates. And when we see others who should but do not, we must insist that they do.
Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, and the Consumer Protection Council frowned against healthcare providers who shun professional ethics, urging them to help foster trust among Nigerians.
Our expectation is that this PBR will further help us in our resolve to achieve universal coverage through strengthening the healthcare delivery system, improvement of patient safety and quality of care, monitoring of standards and practice both in the public and private sector, ensuring that the needs of vulnerable and marginalized groups are met and that they are treated equitably.
It is the vital vehicle upon which even physical infrastructure must ride to truly deliver service.
The federal government is taking this huge step not only to strengthen the nation's healthcare delivery system, but also to ensure that the respect for human rights and human dignity is restored. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuki, Channel Television News.